Welcome to this edition of Weather to Watch. We've got a snow and an ice storm in the Northeast. We'll dive into that. Plus, the really warm temperatures in the central U.S. have about one more day to exist before winter air starts to reestablish itself. We'll talk about some of the snow potential for next week and how the pattern is shifting once again toward colder air in the northern plains. All that coming up. Welcome to Weather to Watch. I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. I hope you had a great Christmas and holiday. This is the Friday visible satellite loop. We can see a big storm way off in the northeast, off in the North Atlantic. But this right here is what we'll focus on here in a minute. This is a combination of snow, a little bit of freezing rain, ice, in other words, ice storm warning in effect for parts of that area, and also sorry for the erasers there, and also a little bit of sleet falling with that as well. You can still see snow cover here in Iowa. Where if it doesn't disappear, it's probably snow, and there's still an onshore flow in parts of California. So there still are rain setting up there, but that situation will ease a little bit for the next couple of days. Big ridge of high pressure right over the central U.S. High temperatures well into the 70s here in the central U.S., 80s in Texas. This little ripple in the upper atmosphere right here is what's lifting the air and causing that snow and the mixed winter precipitation in the northeast. And then there's a trough of low pressure still hanging out just off the coast of California. But again, that situation changing just a little bit. Let's take a look at the surface isobars and temperature pattern. This is the model forecast of what it should look like, or what it did look like at 3 o'clock this afternoon. We have a low pressure center off in just to the north of Columbus, Ohio, and that is what's scooting along in this direction, of course, spreading that precipitation. New invasion of slightly colder Arctic air moving into Minnesota, but this front here will not make it into this area here, where temperatures once again were forecast to be into the mid and even upper 70s in parts of Oklahoma, and I can vouch for the fact that it was in the mid 70s here in southwest Missouri. So let's take a look at what this snow is up to. Well, if you're traveling along the Interstate 80 here through Pennsylvania, it's going to be a kind of a rough drive because you've got an ice storm warning in effect for parts of that drive, and then it becomes a winter storm, winter weather advisory here, and then a winter storm warning through lower parts of New York State, including Albany and New York City. And I'll show you the snow totals here in a minute, but they are well in excess of a half a foot of snow. In fact, some areas may get almost a foot of snow in that area. And while we're on the subject of winter, I do want to point out that there are just kind of a smattering of the normal advisories in the mountainous areas out west. Again, the purple is winter weather advisory, and that kind of pinkish color is a winter storm warning for parts of the mountains of California especially. Let's take a look at the radar loop out east. So New York City is right here, and this is intelligent enough to attempt to paint in the precipitation type. So if it's showing up as this purple-pink color, that's snow. This right here is sleet, the orange color, and this right here, the red colors, pinkish colors, are basically ice or freezing rain. So this is a very typical pattern. Remember, the low is over Ohio, so you've got a warm frontal system set up here, and you got air rising over the surface. So basically, it's all a matter of how warm is it aloft and what's it falling into, basically. So freezing rain is rain that actually falls into air that is technically at or below freezing at the surface. Sleet is little pellets. You can definitely hear sleet because it tings off your windshield when it falls. And of course, snow is obvious, but you can tell by looking at these radar echoes here, this is pretty intense snow. Let's take a look at how the models are forecasting this. So by 6 p.m. Tonight, Friday, they've got this large area here of mixed winter precipitation, finally changing to rain around Pittsburgh and those areas under the warning, but the snow, very obvious. If we just go ahead 12 more hours by Saturday morning, boom, this is just about gone, except it will be, snow will still be flying in much of New England, especially if you go around Connecticut and Rhode Island and Massachusetts with the storm well offshore. So if we take a look at the global picture of snowfall through Sunday at noon, so it's about the next 48 hours as I record this, typical mountain snows. But this is the area we'll focus in here on the northeast, with where you're seeing 9-inch totals around Long Island and maybe parts of Connecticut. Basically, right around the New York City area, about 50 miles either way. It looks like 9-inch snow totals, maybe a little bit more in some areas, with the purple color indicating the 6-inch mark. And it doesn't stop there. If we take a look at, now this is going to show all weather hazards, but the only winter-related, non-winter-related pattern is this heavy rain expected around New Year's Day, right back in the areas is north of Los Angeles. Again, they got heavy rain over the last couple of days. But all the rest of this is either cold, high winds, or heavy snow. Lake effect snows kick in earnest again around the 29th. And also right around New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, with high winds and freezing rain possible on the 29th. So again, the freezing rain part will probably end in time for New Year's Eve celebrations, but some of these are indicating fresh snow right on New Year's Eve itself. And it's pretty cold in the southeast too, with a push of that latest push of cold air with a frosted freeze kind of hazards outlook for the 30th through the 2nd. And then going on and still talking about snow. Now this is big January. This date is wrong. Cross that out. This is the right one here. 3 through 9. I should just let that be the date indicator. Anyway, so we do have a slight risk for some heavy snow from the 3rd through the 5th in parts of Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, UP, and Michigan. So it does look like the cold air is reestablishing itself, at least across this portion of the country. And I'll show you some data to back that up in a second. Let's take a look at heavy rain. So the country is really dominated mostly by snow here, and so most of this is snow, and you can just tell again the way these feed off the lakes that these are lake effect snows. Now again, the way you read total precipitation is that if it is snow, then this forecast melts it down essentially into a rain bucket. So, but you know, the ratios are pretty high, so when you see rain totals or precipitation totals 2 to 3 inches like that color indicates, that's a lot of snow. You're just using a 10-to-1 ratio. That's 25 inches of snow. So that's a lot up in that part of the world for sure. Now, there is a flood watch in effect in California, but that situation, as I said, is easing with the passing of that upper level trough I showed you. So while there is still a flood watch in effect for all this area, again, that's a pattern that will ease a little bit. So starting next week, the overall pattern is still pretty warm across the central and western U.S. There are cold air inroads, though, certainly supporting that lake effect snow and those storm tracks moving through this part of the world. Again, this is an average over a 7-day period that starts on the 29th, this coming Monday, to us, and then goes through all of next week. So take that into consideration, because there's enough cold air coming in on the backside of this anomaly here to make a big difference with cold air intrusions. Temperature anomalies are very cold in Canada, a little bit below normal in the east, but not drastically so. It's still pretty warm in the high desert and parts of the Intermountain west. And that is actually, a little bit of an easing of the extreme warmth that we have and still are seeing in the central plains here, and a reestablishment of what the December forecast really kind of called for this part of the world here to be below normal, and certainly the pattern so far has backed that up. So this is the high temperature. The city temperatures are the actual numbers. 75 where I live here in Springfield, 80 in Oklahoma City, 82 down around the Houston area. It'll be a high of 41 in Minneapolis. Again, the reds indicate how much above normal that is. So while 41 doesn't seem warm when compared to a 75, it's warm for them up there. And you'll notice that the cold air is starting to work its way into Montana. It's still hanging around New England. Now let's go forward 2 more days to Monday. Boom, cold front moves on through. So the high will be 30 after 75 here in Springfield. So yeah, a lot colder. 16 after 41 in Minneapolis, just to give you an example. This cold front kind of really swings things back to close to normal. Now there are some greens and blues and yellows in here indicating above and normal. And this is a little bit below the normal, but generally it's a return to a winter type pattern, whereas still it's that warmth is still hanging on here through parts of Virginia and North Dakota into Monday. And what about Wednesday? 2 more days ahead. Again, Arctic air finding its way southward with a favorable change in the jet stream. A little bit above normal in the Central Plains, still quite a bit above normal. Denver and the Front Range of the Rockies there. We'll take a look at the temperature anomalies Thursday through Monday. This is a confidence level, so this shade of red here is a high confidence it'll be above normal in Texas. This shade of blue here is a high confidence it'll be below normal temperatures in New England. And then if we just skip ahead 2 more days here to the Saturday through Friday outlook, again, much of the country is in moderation. Still, if you're going to find winter air, it's going to be up here. Much of the country is still seeing above normal temperatures. 3, 2, 1. And I want to mention one more thing. There is a severe weather outlook valid for Sunday, day 3. I'm recording this on Friday. It's a marginal risk, the lowest out of 5, through a good chunk of Missouri and Arkansas, spreading northeast over the Ohio Valley, basically, up to around Columbus, Ohio. And we'll just take a look and see what the CSU severe weather probabilities are. So there's just kind of a blowtorch sort of 2% chance of a tornado in this area, which I think is interesting. Not much of a chance for hail, but some high winds as a squall line develops possible. St. Louis, southern Illinois, those areas. Thanks for watching this edition of Weather to Watch. It comes out every other day, or as the weather necessitates. Please remember to share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, or at the very least, like what you just watched. Thanks.